What's up, everybody? It is Tim, Mr. Meaningful Work, and it is another episode of the late afternoon show. This is not our typical episode. We're actually on site today with our guest. Luke Noland is the owner of Fourscore Coffee here in Roseville, California. It is a bedrock of the community, and I'm just so excited to be able to talk to him about the product of coffee, the business of coffee, the community that coffee houses and coffee shops make with an environment, and then how all of that stuff ties in to meaningful work. So I'm super excited. We're going to go on in right now and find Luke. Oh, wrong door. There we go. Coming in to Fourscore Coffee, and look at the man. Look at the man himself. My man, Luke. What's up?
How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for
You
having
as
me.
well. Yo, thank you so much for being on the late afternoon show. So this piece right here. So talk to us about Fourscore. Where did the name Fourscore come from?
Yeah, so the name Fourscore came because we're located on Lincoln Street. So obviously that was part of the inspiration for friends that started it together. So that was another number that was inspirational.
Nice.
And then just the idea of emancipating people not only from slavery, because we see a lot of that still in the world, and that's something that my friends and I have gotten involved in over the years as anti-sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And so that was an inspiration, but also emancipating people from the pretentious coffee culture and saying, hey, you don't have to be a coffee snob.
Yeah.
Fourscore.
Yeah.
You can come enjoy a cup of coffee. And, and it can just be chillax.
Yo, I appreciate that. And if you were here during Christmas time, old Abe had a Christmas hat on. Like, man, this is the coolest Lincoln. We're going to see some more Abe pictures here. But let's look at the round. Let's look at the area. So if you can see here, you got a nice little, we got the deck here with some of the different teas. We got merch here. I actually have one of these cups. Everybody knows this is Daddy's coffee cup at home. So anytime, don't touch Dad's Abe Lincoln cup. And so we have folks just kind of hanging out. We have an open general area. There's another space in the back that we'll go check out. But this is where the magic happens right here. This is where the magic happens right here. The counter, the altar of coffee.
We have an awesome team at Fourscore. Everybody loves to make coffee and loves to connect with their community. And that's really what we hear at the end is that we have the best team.
Yes.
So I think we better make you some coffee.
Yes, I would like some coffee. So we are going to, what is, for somebody that is not a coffee snob, what is an easy drink to get started with?
So, some of my coffee people are going to hate me, but you got to have a maple latte.
A maple latte, okay?
Because we take real maple syrup and awesome value espresso, add that with milk, steam it perfectly. It's really amazing.
Okay, so I will have a maple espresso, please. All right, so we're gonna see how this is done.
So espresso is just basically think of like regular drip coffee. It's the same kind of concept, except we're gonna add pressure and a lot of heat inside of this machine, and that's gonna make the coffee extract quickly and expressly just for you.
Oh, so pressure and heat.
That's where you get the name espresso.
There we go.
So we use a puck press, which is a little automatic tamper, so it tamps that coffee perfectly. I shouldn't have flung it so hard.
This is real life, folks.
Just wasted 45 cents. Eric knows how much you got. All right, so this is an espresso machine. It's a Kees van der Westen. It's in Amsterdam. Kees van der Westen is a huge car enthusiast. So all these espresso machines that he builds, they kind of have a little car flair to
Oh,
them,
I like
especially
that.
the classic car.
So what are you doing now? So you just put it under this.
Yeah, so this is using 9 bars of pressure, which is in the hundreds of pounds per square inch, and that's going to extract this espresso to be perfectly creamy, smooth, delicious. This one's a little bit fast, but good enough for our purposes.
Yeah. So you pour that into the maple syrup. So there was maple syrup at the bottom. You poured the espresso in there.
Yeah.
Nice. And then
She's got my back. She had the milk ready.
Love it.
So this creates steam. There's a giant boiler in here, and there's a pipe that comes off the top, steams the milk. Just gonna get that a little bit of air.
Nice.
And that air, what it does is it think about like fizz and soda, right? The carbonation. So you don't want a flat soda, you don't want a flat beer, you want it to have some carbonation.
Yes.
And that releases more of the flavors that are inside of the beverage.
So you're releasing the flavors of the milk.
Yeah, so if you just drink this milk sweet, straight up, it's going to taste sweet compared to just a normal cup of milk. All right, so we're just going to go in like this. Just give ourselves a little bit of a canvas here.
Nice.
And then we're just going to start painting.
I always love when folks do this. You guys always love when folks, look at this. It's an art, folks. Look at this.
Why don't we just keep going?
Woo! How far can we go? Oh my gosh. Look at
I
that.
almost took a sip of it, but then I remembered it's for you. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a sip of this maple espresso. Check this out. Oh. Yeah. I left the mustache on there so you can see the deliciousness. Say something for later. Oh, this is about to be my go-to.
It's pretty good, huh?
This is about to be my go-to.
It's a little devilish.
This is gonna. Well, are you gonna make one, or
I think I'm just gonna grab some drip.
just grab some drip coffee? So you can see here, we have the different coffee blends. So we have coffee from Guatemala. We got coffee from, this is an original espresso. So talk to us a little bit about the different areas.
One of the cool things that Valiant and the other small coffee roasters do is they've started focusing more on the farmer and the flavors that are inherent in the coffee. So 20, 30 years ago, you get a cup of drip coffee like this, it just tasted like burnt, you know?
Yeah.
And what's happening now is that Eric and I discovered that there's this, this movement towards changing people's perception of coffee.
Yeah.
And so we got into it personally.
Yeah.
And then we realized that we had a passion for bringing that to other people. And that's how Valiant was born.
Nice.
And so when we started roasting, we didn't really know what we were doing, but we knew where we wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so that's something you and I probably talk about more later. Sometimes people just have trouble getting going. Well, if you set your sight on something, that helps.
Yeah.
So at Valiant, we wanted people to get away from pretentious coffee and to find out that there's these beautiful flavors inherent in beans that were being kind of burnt out by our parents' generation of coffee roasters, right? They just wanted something that was really strong and
Just
dark.
get me up and ready to go.
Get them ready to go.
But not really appreciating the depth of flavor.
So all of these specialty coffee roasters now, they take the time on their labels and stuff. Like here we have green apple, sugar cane, marmalade.
So they're showing
these are little tasting notes, right? Flavors of the coffee that are being brought out.
Wow, it reminds me a little bit about wine. Like different tasting notes and areas and regions and a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, and they're getting to the point where now the flavor palettes of coffee are surpassing the possibilities of wine, which is pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Well, we're going to get into that some more. So I'm going to take my coffee here. And so how long has Foursquare been here?
So we've been here since 2015. We've really been rocking and rolling since 2017 because originally we were a very small space and we closed and did a remodel.
Okay.
We opened in 2017. So sometimes
what was that original
we're 5
space?
years old and sometimes I say that we're
5 to 7 years old.
The original space was. So this was Foursquare right here.
Oh wow!
It was
really just Foursquare.
Yep. It was very, very tiny. There was a little window right here where you could grab coffee from people, and it was just one little bench right here, and that was it.
So then you guys closed down. What was it in
2015?
2015, and you did the remodel.
We were open most of the year 2015, and we said, you know what, we're gonna have to close this thing down, get compliant with some codes that we were in violation of. Because this was such just a raw, just old historic building,
Yeah.
and we just kind of threw it together.
Yeah.
And then we realized, oh, I don't think we really know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we actually got in trouble a little bit too. So we backpedaled, blew the whole thing out, and made it what it is today. Reopened in 2017.
And it's really like anytime I mention Fourscore, like to anybody here in Sacramento or Roseville area, they automatically know it, and they have awesome things to say. So we have this whole vibe. You know, folks are doing work and studying and chilling. And then we have this other section. So is there some intentionality around having this too?
Library. Somehow, just by putting books in space, everyone thinks they have to be quiet. And so we did not intend for it to be like this.
Yeah.
But you walk in here, everybody's really quiet, and they're all on their laptops. And if Tim and I start getting loud, they're all going to stare at us, even though I own the place.
Yes, don't mess up the quiet. They got a piano in here, so folks are reading. It does. Like the whole vibe changes. You get super quiet. Sup, Brooke? That's Brooke over there. Sup? He's a book. And then we got this space in the back. So this is where we're going to be having most of our conversation here. Is this the Fourscore studio?
This is the Fourscore studio.
The Fourscore studio. So let's get ourselves set up here. Oh,
Is
so
this the side you want me on?
this is perfect.
All right.
This is perfect. That's your good side, right? This is my good
That's
side.
what I was asking.
This is my
What's
good
your
side. This is my good side, so this is perfect. So 2015 started this place. What inspired it? What inspired you to say, hey,
Man,
I want to get into coffee?
I think the biggest thing was that I just didn't want to work for somebody else anymore. And I was tired of waiting on someone else's response to a problem.
Right.
And I think that if there's one thing that really defines business owners, is that they're problem solvers.
Yeah.
You know, when something's broken, they always try to fix it themselves first.
Yeah.
They rarely call the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you get to a certain point and you always call the guy.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, business owners are problem solvers.
Yeah. They're drivers. You want to get it done.
Yeah. And I notice a lot of my friends, that have businesses, they like to solve problems, and they like to solve problems for other people.
Yeah.
And so, I think especially as guys, we like to be asked to help.
Yeah.
And when we see that there's a need in the marketplace, we want to help fill it.
Yeah.
And so we're really driven to do that.
Yeah.
And so I saw a need in the marketplace I was working in for someone else. But my friend, James, he saw a need here in this place. He saw down here in Old Roseville a need to fill that void that people were looking for good coffee. And so he was like, you got to come check this out. And I blew him off for months and months before I even came down here to check it out. So then it just took off from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it was about seeing a need, filling that need.
Yeah.
And I love what you said at the beginning. It's like, with Valiant, and it's like, we knew what we wanted to do, like the overall picture, like the need that we wanted to feel, like how to get there. We still had to figure it out. Like we were gonna bump along along the way. And so what did you learn in that process, right? So with the coffee shop itself, with the beans, with Valiant, what are some of the key things that you learned about starting something, kind of setting a vision, and then figuring it out as you go through?
I think the biggest thing I learned is that a business reflects every part of yourself.
As the
business owner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the good and the bad. And I think that, that's why a lot of people love Instagram and TikTok and other social media platforms, especially right now, is because they want to get themselves out there.
Yeah.
And so a business is like one of the earliest forms of doing that. It's a way of showing yourself to the world and showing yourself like what you believe is valuable, what you can do, what you think is trending, what you think is the next big thing. Those are all things that, people can ask you one-on-one, but when you have a business, you can tell thousands of people your vision, your mission, you show them your product without having a one-on-one interaction. And so it's pretty cool to see, you just think about Elon, right? And Tesla, right? he's giving the world that product, even though he doesn't make any Teslas anymore. He's giving the world a product and saying, this is my vision, this is myself, my idea, and now I'm making it into a product. And so with coffee, what we wanted to do is make a product that was approachable. And so that's always been one of my strengths as a manager, working for other people, as a supervisor working at Starbucks, is that people always found me, hey, you're really approachable. It's really easy to talk to. It's really, I'm not scared even when you're disciplining me. And it's because I just have, that's just my way, and not everybody's like that. And I'm not saying my way is the only way, but that's where I saw that I thrived. And so I said, well, if I can take my strength and make an approachable version of coffee, maybe people will react to that.
Absolutely.
But you don't know if people are going to like it until you do it. And they did.
That is awesome. So, I was literally having a conversation yesterday about starting a business, like somebody that wanted to start their own business and trying to figure out, like, what should I do? What should I get into? And she was giving feedback on, I can do this, real estate, or I can do Amazon services, or I can do this, like just trying to brainstorm different ideas. And one of the things that I shared was, well, first of all, figure out, what are you good at? Like, what do you love? What do you enjoy? Like, what's in your personality? What comes naturally to you? What are things that you can deal with the pains of that other folks like can't deal with the pains of? What do you thrive in? What activates you? That's where you need to start. And you just affirmed that, saying, it's like, if I know that in my personality, my characteristic is that of being approachable, right? And if I can build a business or a brand around that thing, I have I was telling her, I was like, that will give you a competitive edge, right? Absolutely. You have that advantage because you're bringing something that no one else has. Like, thousands of people. I mean, there's coffee shops, here to the end of the moon, but nobody is doing it from the perspective of making it approachable, of making it, less pretentious, of making it, that community thing. And so, as folks are,
like, have you ever gone to a bar and the bartender doesn't seem to want to take anyone's order?
Like they're bothered by.
That's how the specialty coffee community is viewed, and it always perplexes me because I'm like, don't you want to sell more beers or whatever, but it's just a cult. I think that there are a lot of things in our culture and in every culture that are just accepted because it's always been that way. And then someone breaks out of it and people get mad at them, but they thrive. And then it's like, well, maybe we were doing it wrong all the time. And I think about just different things in our culture and like how different types of businesses operate. And like, that doesn't serve the customer very well, but it serves that particular business, like, or the people in it. All the people who do that thing are like, this is how it's done. Like, but that's not what the customer wants. And so I think if we see shifts, a great example is the real estate industry, and a lot of realtors are mad about Zillow and Redfin and all these companies. It's like, but they're making the customer likes it. So I think that there are a lot of things that we do it a certain way. We make coffee a certain way. We present it a certain way. And Starbucks for years told us this is how it's done, and people are tired of that.
I love that. One of the things I, just thinking about food services and restaurants and those kind of industries where a lot of folks will tell you that it's very high effort, low margin type of work. And, it's a lot of stress. And until you're able to, scale to X amount of stores, like, you're really not going to start seeing the benefits of that. But what I want to ask you specifically is, what do you hold on? Like, what joys or pleasures or positives do you hold on to when you hit those things where it's like, oh, this is a lot of stress, this is a lot of effort, and maybe it's not bringing back the fiscal rewards or margin or whatever? What do you hold on to kind of keep you going?
My people.
Your people.
I mean, when we have had multiple, not just employees, but also other people in our network, like, who are become regular guests at Foursquare, right? who have gone through stuff, and we have launched a campaign to raise money for them, or we've brought awareness to what they're going through, and the response from the community is crazy. And so, to me, it's crazy. Other people might not think it's crazy, but when a bunch of people kind of like strangers, right? Like they don't know our employees, but they just interact with our employees. But just to say, here's a check, here's money in a jar. Here's a gift. And that is just crazy to me. I'll never forget when we first opened. I totally forgot about this till now, but I'll never forget it in the long term. This person brought in a card, and it had just this very nice note saying, "You just started a business. This is really difficult, and like really admire your passion, and just things like that." And just $1,000 cash in there, no signature, no who it's from,
just gifted,
just here's $1,000, and like, of course I cried. I got that, and I was just like, why would somebody do that? But coffee and business in general, a service business like you're talking about, it's high effort, low margin. It creates a tribe of people. There are people who do it and they don't cultivate that tribe, and they kind of push the customer away. But a lot of business owners in the food service industry in general are good about inviting their people into what's happening. Nick's Taco is an awesome restaurant nearby. Just got a Michelin star recognition.
Nice.
And they had their barbecue that was out front stolen, and they just put it out there on their social media, like, "Hey, hope someone's enjoying our barbecue," kind of thing. Well, people talk to people and people share it, and next thing you know, some guys from Roseville PD, they what's it called? They arrested somebody and they took all their stuff that they had. They're like, "We're sure some of this is stolen." And somebody had told somebody, "Hey, these guys got their barbecue stolen," and so they call them and say, "Hey, we think we have your barbecue."
Wow.
It was like a month later. It wasn't like the next day or something. It was way down the road. But just people in the network, sharing the need. And of course, there's like way more positive stories about people just having an opportunity because they met someone here. And just connecting, like I know you've connected with people here, and then you do business together. And so that, I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like if I fell down, there's hundreds of maybe thousands of people who know who I am because I put this business out there, and they would pick me up if I felt like I couldn't take another step. So that's what I love about it.
You have that, like the community support of. And I love what you said before as far as your learnings of how a business is really an extension of yourself, right? As the business owner. It's almost like I think of, it's not, I wish I could remember the name of the movie, but the guys, like the drivers, get into these robots. It's not Transformers, because Transformers are like robots themselves, but like these guys get into the robots, and like they're neurologically linked or whatever, and they're like fighting. And so you have this kind of exoskeleton, something that is bigger than yourself, but is doing, great work. And I feel like that's, if business in its truest form is like, okay, I'm putting on this service or product that's an extension of myself, and it can have a much more outsized impact than maybe that I can have personally, like, or by myself, and folks respond and interact. And why a lot of the more passionate business folks, it becomes very personal. Like business is not something that it's like, oh yeah, we'll just separate business from personal. Like they're two separate things. Like you can, and if you can, like that's a little weird. It's like, is it really something that you're really into? Is that something that you have to deal with? Is trying to like separate business and personal, or what does that look like?
I don't think it's ever good to put up boundaries where you want to grow.
It's not good to put up boundaries where you want to grow.
Yeah, so if you, it's like a garden, right? You could say, well, I just want to have my basil over here and this over here. But if you want to grow pumpkins, you better tear down those barriers because it's just going to spread out. And so you got to know you got to know your product. You got to know your market, your customer, your demographic. And if you want to grow and you want people to really buy into your vision and what you're doing, then you have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of business owners would not do this because they're like, well, what if I say something stupid? Or what if I make a mistake? What if I look stupid?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I am concerned about those things on a regular basis. You know, what do we look like to the customer?
Yeah.
But if I'm always concerned about what I look like to the customer, then that goes down to my staff. And then our customer sees that. Instead of saying, no, we're just going to be genuine and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But where I've learned to put up barriers is with the people who are always trying to sell you something. And so, you know, there's always people hitting us up, like switch to our payroll company or our insurance and this and that. And so those are the things for me that are stressors. Other people may not be stressed by that. But I think each business owner or each, you know, entrepreneur who's doing their own small business has to just decide what stresses you out and put up barriers in those areas. Because you're not trying to buy more products. You're trying to grow your business. But if you put a barrier between you and the customer all the time, it's not good.
It's not good.
I put my cell phone number on all the business cards because if a customer is actually going to take the time to call me, that's hella rare.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a customer call me and say, I'm about to post a 1-star Yelp review. Yeah. You know, so if they're calling me, it's probably for a really good reason.
But in the end, and then it shows a level of passion or commitment or emotional attachment, right? I think whether it's positive or negative, somebody that has been driven to respond or react or whatever in that way. And then your response to that, right? It's like, okay, so how do we still respond in a loving, caring, compassionate, you know, on brand type of way? So let's just imagine for a second, so you got $1,000 when you started off, somebody donated. Let's just imagine that some other anonymous donor, it's not me because I don't got it, but some anonymous donor was like, you know what? Here's, let's say, $5 million. You've been doing great. What would be the first thing if you had a big old endowment, big influx of cash? Like, what would you do with that for your growth in your business?
Oh man, that's a great question. Opening other locations is definitely that's something that we're already looking at because you can only do so much. Like you were alluding to earlier, you can't do much with one location when it comes to providing for a family, let alone building a legacy for your employees. Right. And one thing I've noticed everywhere I moved is people leave because there's nowhere to go. So I think creating more revenue streams within the business. An example would be having a cold brew line where we could put cold brew in grocery stores and stuff like that. Now that creates a whole distribution job. So I'm all about creating jobs. So the first thing I would ask is, how can I create more jobs? How can we create more coffee-related products to sell? The other thing we really struggle with is the food side. Everybody wants pastries and food. And even before the pandemic, we lost one of our bakers. They went out of business. And then during the pandemic, we lost 2.
Oh my gosh.
And so, you know, it breaks my heart for them. They went through, one of them, thankfully, they just stopped doing wholesale. So they kept their own locations, their own everything. I think they're doing fine. But they just couldn't wholesale anymore because people wouldn't pay them. And so, you know, we were one of the people who lost out on that. So, you know, we love our bakers and we have loved the products that they brought us, but there's something in that business that's not clicking. And so I think it makes sense for us to do it in-house. So launching more locations with a bakery operation and doing some type of wholesaling of like cold brew and extending, you know, like with Valiant, we're always looking for new customers and stuff. So I'm always sending people to Eric as we make those connections within Fourscore. And that's really helped grow the wholesale coffee operation as well. So I mean, it's hard to say. Like, I wouldn't just go buy a Ferrari. That's for sure.
Just slap a Fourscore on the door. Like, just
$1 million raise. But but I do think that, like, when you take care of yourself, when you take care of, you know, like when you're on the airplane, when they say oxygen,
put the mask on you first
for the next one. Because I spent a long time putting the mask on everybody else, and then you burn out. and then you're laying on the floor like
Yeah.
this, what happened?
Somebody help. Yeah.
Yeah. So, my wife used to, when we were dating, she used to joke that I was married to my job.
Mm-hmm.
And because before I met her, I put married to, and then the Facebook page of
Yeah.
the business,
Yeah.
instead of a person,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it really is like that, if you let it happen. And so you have to put the oxygen into yourself and make sure that you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because then as soon as you feel like you can really say, oh, this person working alongside me, now how can we get them oxygen?
100%.
The next person, the next person.
100%.
So we've never had employees kind of ask for a raise and say, no way.
Yeah.
It's always, okay, what are you doing for the business?
Yeah.
And then you make them explain it.
Yeah.
And then you say, here's also other things I see. And then here's things you could work on.
Yeah.
And here's your raise.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, I thought I was going to have to fight for it. I'm like, no, you just have to ask.
Yeah.
Because the world is going. And everybody's wages are going
super
up.
competitive. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it really, it's been amazing to see just how we've been able to pour into people.
Yeah.
And then they pour back.
Yeah.
It becomes cyclical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I haven't even asked the question, but you've already answered it.
Sorry.
Because which is great, because it just shows that the wavelength is there. One of the things that I am really focusing on with just the Mr. Meaningful Work brand is on retention and engagement within organizations. And obviously restaurant industry, retail industry, turnover is super high. Like folks are just kind of in it for a job and then jumping on to the next thing. We
just had a girl leave. She'd been here just shy of 6 years in a coffee shop.
6 years in a
crazy.
Like that is.
And she left to start her own business. I always tell people, you should leave. You should leave one day, but I won't let you leave if you're not going to something better. And they always do. But it's just telling people that up front and saying, I know this is a stepping stone for you, and that is totally okay.
Yeah.
You should not work in a minimum wage job.
Yeah.
Or even, something like me, we always try to stay just ahead of
above,
minimum wage, but I mean, this is a low margin business. So it is the reality, of what we do. But I always tell people, I want you to move forward.
Yeah.
But as long as you're here, I want you to give 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a great referral, in reference to somebody else. But that's not really what is beneficial for them. It's the connections that they make, and the things that they learn while they're here. And we've had people who were working part-time here and working part-time somewhere else, and they left there and come here because they're like, man, what I was trying to do over there, I can do it better here if I just spend more time here.
Yeah.
And they're just coming to me and telling me that. I'm not asking for that. Yeah. And that's been shocking in a good way.
Because you set yourself up as an approachable, trustworthy. Even in the answer of what would you do with the $5 million infusion, you went automatically to how to create jobs and development opportunities, right? So it's like if somebody wants to grow from a barista to a business development manager, or like a district, with multiple locations, like you're thinking from the standpoint of growth, development. And if we look at Gallup engagement data, that some of the top reasons that folks leave organizations is that they don't see a trajectory for growth, or they don't have those conversations with their leaders, or they don't feel like they're cared for, that there's trust and all those different things. And so for anybody that comes to Foursquare, you come through and you just feel a vibe of care. You feel a vibe of openness and approachability. And then if you ever get a chance to talk with Luke, you hear that he's passionate about, making sure that folks are set up for success and that they have the opportunities to grow. And that ties into why people stay. It's one of the 2 points that I'm really honing in on this Mr. Meaningful Work stuff is, how do we create teams that are both motivated to stay, but that other folks want to come into, right? That you can attract talent and keep talent based on these, on these principles.
You probably looked in this way more, but I have a friend who's a recruiter, and he was telling me what these companies are spending to hire him to recruit people. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Spending money just out the nose,
Yeah.
you know, and just bleeding money like crazy
Yeah.
to keep people,
Yeah.
to find people, and then they can't keep them
Yeah.
because there's always people trying to recruit them away.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the heck?
It's a lot. It's at least for folks that are leaving. So to backfill somebody that decides to like just voluntary resignation or resign or whatever, depending on the role, it is 1/3 to 50% of that person's wage or salary to get somebody else in there.
Wow.
Not even talking about the operational pain. I mean, we're just talking about the physical pain. And then to get somebody new, like growing the team. So if folks are just, diligent and consistent about thinking in these ways of just somebody asks for a raise and you ask a question, right? It's not a flat out, let's talk more about that, right? Think through that. What are those opportunities? How are you contributing? And then affirming, the bravery.
A 5 to 10% raise could be a huge deal for them.
Absolutely.
Losing them could be a 30% cost for the company.
Absolutely. When you look at the opportunity cost, it was like, hey, if we
people are becoming expensive.
Yeah, human capital, like it's costing a lot. So, but I appreciate that. So, if I was to, one of the questions that we do ask all of our guests is meaningful work. I've been doing this for the last couple of years and gathering definitions, if you would. So, if I was to ask you, based on your experience, how you would define meaningful work, what would that Luke standard definition look like?
Something that impacts people, and something they don't forget.
Yeah.
I think that the majority of the choices we make are impacted by something we've heard from someone else. We don't often get up out of bed in the morning and just go somewhere for no reason. We saw someone else share it on Instagram. We heard somebody else tell about their dining experience. We heard growing up, like an example would be, your dad says, I'm going fishing every weekend. You hit this point in your life where like, I'm going to go fishing because that's what my dad did.
There's been influence and impact for sure.
And so I think there's always something running in the back of our mind that we want to try something or we want to go somewhere. We want to go see a place. There was a commercial during the Super Bowl. Can't remember who it was, but it was a famous actor, and they're saying, we're not going to wish that we bought more stuff. We're not going to wish that we invested more in Bitcoin. We're going to wish that we traveled more. It was, I think, an Expedia commercial saying, go travel. And he opens a door out of the studio, and there's the beach, kids running on the beach. And so I think that, things like that is we're going to wish that we did more things, or that we spent time with more people. We're not going to wish that we had more stuff at the end. So, so I think that the more that we can connect products that are beneficial to people with a meaningful experience, that will help people react to that product and understand why they're consuming that product. Not just there's this guy that I follow, the whiskey guy, and he's always posting this stuff, and he's really good at getting me to want to go buy whiskey. But when I stop and think about it, I realize that whiskey is meaningless unless I share it with somebody. And if you watch documentaries of some the top whiskey guys in the world, they'll all say it's not about the whiskey, it's about who you share it with. And that's what's memorable and meaningful. And so I think what we did on accident was we created a very meaningful experience at Foursquare. And so for us here, meaningful work is providing an experiential place where people can feel more meaningful in the world. And so I know that happens to me, when I take the time to sit down and enjoy it, is I just feel a deeper meaning.
And connection. I remember a story that you had shared when I was on his podcast. So he has a podcast, Foursquare. Are you guys renaming it, or what's?
I think it's gonna stay Proclamation.
Yeah? Proclamation, the
Yeah.
Proclamation podcast.
Yeah. Should probably just call it the Foursquare.
The Foursquare podcast.
It's too confusing.
But a story that you were sharing about, one of your favorite coffee experiences, where you were, I think, like in South America or something, and you guys just had like the instant coffee, and you shared that it was
at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, 3 in the morning. Like the coffee was horrible.
We were off,
but off on time zones and things like that. But it was great because of the people that you were with, like the time that you're able to spend, and now that you're able to infuse those type of experiences where folks can come together and reflect on this. Like, man, I remember that time I was at Foursquare and I talked to this guy. You guys do events with in Christmas time and like different things that you bring the folks together. So you're definitely bringing that meaningful experience, man.
Yeah, we want people to say, if they bring us out, that we want them to feel like their experience, whatever they're doing, is elevated.
Mm-hmm.
And if we bring people here, we want them to feel like whatever they're doing, we want to be a catalyst.
Yeah.
If I had to use one word, I'd say catalyst.
Okay.
We want, when we add coffee, we want it to be a catalyst for whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
When you come here and buy coffee, we want it to be a catalyst for whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And so that could be because you're meeting someone here, or just because you need to wake up.
Yeah.
And so we do a really, really intentional job of not judging why a person's here.
Yeah.
Or what they want.
Yeah.
But just asking them.
Yeah.
Asking the question, what can we get for you?
Yeah.
And I go to so many places and it's just like, what's up?
Yeah.
And you're like, what's up? Instead of how can I serve you?
Yeah.
And being have you ever watched Downton Abbey?
No, I know the theme song.
It's a little slow.
Yeah.
But there's an old guy who he runs the whole house. Yeah. And his goal in life is just to be number one servant. And that really is something that hits a chord for me. And it's the thing I've enjoyed most about the show. I'm like, oh, there he is. Okay, what's he doing? And he'll just be in his office, just inventorying the wine, and just making sure everything's good for the Lord. Yeah. And so, as a Christian, it speaks to me in a religious sense, but in the way that I interact with my fellow man is like, how can I serve you? Yeah. Well, what do you mean? You're not my servant, but I am. But today I am. Yeah. When you're here, I'm here to serve you. Yeah. When we go outside, now we're equals. Yeah. but in here, I'm here to serve you. Yeah. And I think that trickles all the way down to the staff. And then they're like, whoa, I didn't realize there would be joy in serving people in that way. So,
man,
that's what we do.
Bringing a perspective of joy in service. Joy in service. And you'll see that. I mean, again, I feel like he's not paying me for this, but like I come here and the smiles behind the counters, like the conversations, even it's just like a little joke between like, oh, you're getting this cup versus like a to-go cup, and just like connecting with folks like, oh, a latte versus the, just a free pour and things like that. Like there's genuine conversation. It's not just a quick transaction. Like they're there to make sure that you're okay. Talking about the music, if there's music playing, like they're using that as a catalyst for conversation. It's just beautiful. So, Luke, dude, look at this. We normally do a 30-minute show, but man, we're at 45 because this is good. No, this is absolutely perfect. I just love the community that you're building here. I love the passion around coffee. I love the growth that's happening. I love the relationship, just, the friendship that, we've been able to build. And
all because of this place. It connected us.
Because of this place.
Yeah.
Because of this place. So folks, if you are ever in the area in Roseville, come and check us out. Lincoln Street. What's the
327.
number? 327 Lincoln Street. 327 Lincoln Street. If you even ask somebody, if you get into Roseville and say, hey, where's Foursquare? Everybody knows where Foursquare is.
They'll be able to point
folks
in the right
know, like at work, like if I say Foursquare, like everybody knows where Foursquare is. So we appreciate the brand that you've built. And thank you for continuing to do this meaningful work, folks. That is all the time that we have for today. Join us next week for another episode of the Late Afternoon Show. If you loved the conversation, if you have any feedback about some of the topics that we've talked about here, send me an email, at MrMeaningfulWork.com. You can shoot me a comment or a DM on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, what have you. We love your feedback. Join our community at MrMeaningfulWork.com. And check it out. We have a group as well. So if you're on LinkedIn, we have a group called the Meaningful Work Movement, where we have curated content about what some of the awesome folks like Luke and some of the other folks in the community are doing around the space of meaningful work. So many ways to get in touch. Check us out. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time on the Late Afternoon Show. Peace.